NicholasEftimiades, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you again for having me.
A U.S. Navy sailor pleaded guilty this week to spying for China. What's your understanding of his motivation?
14 times he accepted cash, totaling, as far as we know, at least $14,000. So there's certainly a financial motivation, even if he had some feeling towards, nationalistic motivation and feeling towards China. He certainly was doing it for cash.
And in terms of the broader U.S.-China relations, how do you see cases like this fitting into that?
This has gone to a vastly larger scale on with China's in China's methods. So it's actually impacting economic policy, it's impacting U.S. foreign policy, and it's impacting the U.S. economy, which is extraordinary. As far as you think of intelligence agencies and its activities actually changing the economy of another nation. So it's China's taking it to a new level, and actually they're actually flipping the global paradigm of what we've called intelligence collection or spying.
What are the Chinese Communist Party's methods? It seems we're seeing something different than what we normally think of as intelligence gathering. Give us a sense of that.
Traditionally, intelligence agencies obviously work in secret, and they're government entities, right? So they're government entities working against foreign governments, most often against foreign intelligence services, against foreign militaries and political apparatus as well, globally. But it's usually restricted to that, not in the case of China. China uses what we call a whole of society approach, and they task and use state-owned enterprises. They have CCP elements, United Front Work Department, acting globally, all targeting technologies and information, on behalf of the CCP. We have this whole dynamic of economic espionage. Hundreds and hundreds of cases of China actingly with government support going to steal foreign technologies and foreign intellectual property. So this is the dynamic shift. The U.S. doesn't do that. Most liberal democracies in the world don't engage in that. They don't steal another country's technology and then give it to their own commercial institutes. And that's the big difference in the way China operates.
And given the level of this that you just laid out, what is the solution here? How can the U.S. counter that?
The answer is not what we're doing now, because you look at the example of the FBI, and the FBI says they have a China case that opens once every 12 hours. That's 365 times 2. That's 730 cases a year spread over 56 field offices. And if each one of these cases takes a year to 2 years to wrap up, you're already backlogged thousands of cases. The reality is we're not structured to deal with this. The U.S., most governments are not structured to deal with this. It takes a different type of relationship with private industry, and we have to get out of the mentality of trying to arrest our way out of the situation. It's just not going to happen. So the reality is the United States needs a strategic approach towards countering China, and to be honest, to forcing it into behaving by global norms. Compete the way everybody else does. Everyone's happy if that happens. But it needs a strategy to get there, which involves all of government and involves its private sector as well.
And how would the U.S. force the Chinese Communist Party to comply with international laws? Is that economic leverage? What leverage would it be?
It's the same way China's playing. It's all mechanisms of government, of national power. It's economic, it's information, it's diplomacy, it's intelligence, it's cyber, all those things. And when China does something, an egregious act like steals, as they did health data in the case of Momentum, steals data on 69 million people. The United States has to respond to that, not just arresting 4 people, not just indicting 4 people, but saying, fine, ABC businesses can't do business anywhere in the United States. You can't fly on any carriers. And by the way, the same is going to apply for our allies too. That's the type of pressure that we have to bring to China, because otherwise they're going to continue to take advantage. Right now, there are no consequences for them. And that's the key failure in American policy. Right? There is no deterrence because there are no consequences. So a person gets arrested. So a person gets indicted. So they get publicly shamed. It hasn't even proved remotely close to stopping, this espionage onslaught.
NicholasEftimiades, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me again.